It's crazy. Just 3 weeks ago, every class of African from privilege to poor in Trinidad, some of the East Indians, and some the whites all stood in solidarity with the police execution of George Floyd in America. In Trinidad, I remember clearly all the blackout profiles and pictures on Instagram, from almost every Trinidadian in every walk of life. All in support of the African American community plight, which is all well and good. Fast forward 3 weeks later. In our own country of Trinidad and Tobago, we record the same scenario. 3 young men, who clearly surrendered, were brutally executed without a fair trial. Let's now take a look at the people who stood up against it. These are the communities of Sealots, Beetham Gardens, Nelson, George and Duncan Street, Bagatelle, etc. We now ask the question, where is the same response from the privileged black people who resides in East-West Corridor? The so-called well-off black communities. They all stood in solidarity with George Floyd. Where is the solidarity for your own Trinidad brothers? They began separating themselves, along with some of the East Indians and whites, labeling it as a ghetto problem, and thinks it has nothing to do with them. Is this protest only for the ghetto people? Or, for all humanity? For those who think this does not apply to them. Because you live a better standard of life and you don't reside in a neglected area. Think again. Let me give you an example. You are a young black student living in Trin City. Your mother buys you a Nissan, for you to be able to attend university. One day on your way to school, there is a roadblock. Beside you in traffic is a white man in a BMW. You both drive to approach the commanding police officer. Guess who is getting stopped and searched, and who goes free? That goes to show, even though you are from a good family, from a good neighborhood, and educated, you are still labeled a threat to society. This is the injustice the ghetto is fighting against. We all go through it at some time in life, regardless of race, gender, and class. Think about this, people in the ghetto go through this every single day. Ask yourself, if you can live like that. This protest didn't happen overnight, it was a constant year after year of extrajudicial killing in the poor communities. False framing cases and hurt, caused by corrupt officers. Sadly, the bad cops are making the good cops look bad, but the good cops cannot say anything about it, because they are sworn to brotherhood, under one order and oath. Everyone keeps forgetting the start of this all. A young police officer killed days prior, and word on the street was, allegedly, this was a revenge execution for that slain officer. How come the law only works for officers and elites in society? Whenever anything happens to people of high color and stature, justice is served immediately. When their children goes missing, they are found immediately. While poor African and East Indian go missing every day, without being found. So, when you see these poor people out here fighting a good fight, support them. Because you and your family and your generation after, might benefit from it. No bad outcome comes from protest, only good changes. Check your history books. That is why countries have independence. The slave trade abolished. And we were entitled to education and rights to vote, etc. This was all possible, from the art of protesting. Women protested and got their rights, gays protested and got their rights, now poor people are protesting for their human rights, not to be killed, and somehow this is wrong? Why do the poorer class of people in society always have to protest for something that is given freely to others in this country? They have to protest for water, they protest for wages, now they are protesting justice. We will give you an example of how one-sided this society can be. Let's look at Carnival, where every creed and class, jumping up and enjoying soca music. Do you know where most of these singers are born? You guessed it. From the ghetto, from the Destras, to Bungees. Do you remember the song Bungie sang called Ghetto? Did you think it was just a song? This was a portrayal of identity. Destra always identified herself as a positive product from the poor community. Most of our athletes, who each year behind every World Cup and Olympics, are from the ghetto. We, the population, in the high society, sit here and enjoy all the products from the ghetto, the music, the carnival, sports, culture, etc. Now the ghetto is facing a big problem, and no one is supporting. The entire Trinidad is quiet. Here's another scenario. Pan, our national instrument. Where did most panyards derive from? You guessed it, the ghetto. Where did carnival derive from? You guessed it, slavery, those very slave dens that graduated to become the same ghetto you spit on today. Yet today we see all the high people in the business society benefiting from the culture, the colonial white-owned, local import company, that sells all the drinks for Carnival make all the money. The higher class people in societies from the big offices and parliament, lawyers, doctors and magistrate, chip to sweet steel pan music round Carnival time. Played by the same ghetto youth, from communities like Lots, Laventille, John, Beethan. Whom is, coincidentally the ones protesting change today. With all the pan lovers in TNT, that hold high offices, and the business companies that make the most money from the culture. All of a sudden, not willing to speak out on behalf of the ghetto? Online you heard the comments, from the masses, saying they are all pest, kill them all, and they should die. Carnival time, those same people, making those comments, you see partying and jumping up to the same music that derived from the ghetto. Who are they? They are the privileged blacks, local whites and East Indians. My friends, you are the biggest hypocrites to your own race and by extension your own country.
So it's like all the society is doing is leeching off the ghetto. They use the ghetto for their pain, for their sorrow, for their culture, for their music, for their happiness, for their movement.
You're the real example of what's wrong with society. Remember, when you point a finger at the poor and neglected, you will have 3 fingers pointing back at you. And to the Christians, when Christ walked the earth, he was always surrounded by the poor and needy, the prostitutes, and the sinners. He never commiserate with the high and mighty. He was even born in the worst community at that time, the community of Nazareth. There is a famous saying, can any good come out of Nazareth? Meaning, that community was bad at the time, yet, he never judged a soul and accepted all. Those comments online, you should be ashamed of. Christ had a famous saying, depart from me, workers of iniquity, for I do not know you. Please, don't fall into that bracket. We will be judged by our deed, and how we live on earth with our fellow men. Let's all be a shining example of followers and teachings of Christ. Let's all set the correct example. Thank you.
Need help.
You think that some of that money that's coming from all the oil that's on the island would trickle down here. But from everything everyone's telling us, it doesn't come down here at all.
No, because we don't see here as part of Trinidad. We see here as a sore, a diseased part that we wish would go away. I tell people, if your left kidney is cancerous and you ignore it, it will kill you. If you focus on the parts of your body that are healthy and you say, that left kidney is just a pain and a bother, you're going to die. And the nation is dying because we're treating a part of us as though it will go away and dry up one day.